I've got three really popular sets of screwdrivers. We got the Wiha, we got the brand new Knipex, and we got the Wera here. And I'm going to tell you my experience with them and compare the handles and just tell you what to expect. I bought this set on Amazon for the Knipex, and I feel like I made a huge mistake. The quality is there, but there's some hits and some misses. So let's get into it. First off, I want to get straight to the nuts and bolts of the video. I'm going to show you a profile on a Milwaukee here because I feel like everyone by now has had a chance to get this Milwaukee. I've heard a lot of feedback with this Milwaukee, and I do agree with everybody. There's three flats here on this screwdriver. My finger right now, 1, 2, and 3 on my thumb here are on the flats. When you're using this screwdriver with leverage in mind, the flats aren't really prevalent, and it's a pretty comfortable screwdriver. When you start to try to speed things up with this, what happens is your fingers are trying to find the flats, and it kind of turns into an awkward kind of bounce while you're turning this tool. It's more of a up and down kind of throwing in the air. There's really no control on where you're going to be grabbing the screwdriver as you're turning it. Now, of course, it still works as a screwdriver, and it's a minor complaint, but when you use this stuff every day, it's things like this that I like to point out so you know what to expect. When we look at the Wera here, it was a very similar experience, except that we had a bump here, and even though we were starting to go kind of off, that bump keeps you on track here to where you're able to re-index, and it turns into a really nice turn. When you go for the flat, it's nice and narrow here. My experience with the Wera was that the handles got increasingly shorter and not as thick as the tools got smaller and smaller, and I really wish that the handles would have stayed the same size. When I look at the Wihas, which overall has been the best experience for me, the Wihas kind of stick with the same shape, the same thickness, the same length, and even as the Wihas shrink in shaft length and tip size, they still maintained the same handle length, which is something that I really appreciated. This would be a Wiha here. This is a number 1 driver, and you can see where the handle length is just about the same. If we look at some of the Veras here and we compare the handle length, you'll see what I'm talking about pretty quickly, where it's just not the same experience. So unfortunately, Knipex also chose to go that route, and we wound up with a couple of different size handles in this kit. Now, I purchased the number 2 square and the number 1 square individually in my Knipex set. So when I opened up my first box of Knipex, which is right here, I was pleasantly surprised to see a really nice feeling Knipex screwdriver. Now, what's really good about these Knipex screwdrivers, that's not even a Knipex, my apologies. What's really nice about the Knipex screwdriver here is that we've got a flat here on the yellow. We've got the lanyard if that's something that your job requires for retention. You got identification on the bottom of the tool. It's 1000 volt. And these flats here is what I really want to talk about, because when you're in kind of the leverage power mode here, your thumb just sits beautifully on these lines here. And when you go to spin it, you wind up here on the complete round portion, and you get a good spin on it. Also, the tips are extremely parallel, and they hold screws really nicely, especially those panel cover screws. You guys know what I'm talking about. So overall, this was a really good experience. Then I started getting into the kit that I bought on Amazon, which is the 9K989832US. And they did something interesting here. They basically, right out of Wera's playbook, started decreasing the length and the thickness of the handles. They also chose to do something else interesting here, which was give us a very tiny screwdriver that really, for professionals, unless you're installing thermostats professionally, that's all this thing is going to do. So this tip is so small, there's no way that you could really realistically use it on anything else. If you're working security or something, you've got yourself a nice little driver. but it is fairly flimsy. It flexes really easily, and it's really nothing special about it. It's just kind of here, and I would have liked to have seen something different in the kit. If you buy the kit, you are metaphorically shooting yourself in the foot, because you're going to have some screwdrivers and you're going to start overlapping on sizes that you already have to try to get the better handles. I think that you're better off buying the individual size screwdrivers for a little bit more money and getting the good handles. This is a number 2 Phillips, and you can see where it's very similar, and it's actually the same size as our number 2 square. When we went to the flathead for the Knipex here is where they really lost me. This is where they really lost me here, because the Knipex has the beautiful flats. The handle is no longer the same kind of profile, and the grip changes entirely. When we were fast spinning back here, it was thicker, it took up more space, and we could kind of fast spin. When you go to reach down for more leverage to fast spin, your fingers are fighting for that flat, much like the Milwaukee screwdriver, and you really don't know where your fingers are going to land. And what winds up happening is you start to kind of roll off a center. I hope that makes sense. And it's just not a great experience. So if you do get this Knipex set, you definitely want to get the bigger screwdrivers. I'm going to link below from Amazon the square so you know what profile and everything to get. That way you can find it easier, because the other good size screwdriver came in the set. And I first opened these, I was really excited, but then when I saw the rest, I was like, darn. My first reaction when I see these is, dang it, they are tiny. They are, wow, they are very tiny. Okay. Well, let's see what to expect. We're going to be comparing these to the Wera more than I thought. Let's keep an open mind and let's see what they got. When we look at some other screwdrivers that we got here, we also picked up the 85-year edition of the Wiha, and they are fun. They look really cool. When I got them on Amazon, I wasn't sure if they forgot to color the photo and they just uploaded or what, but they definitely look really cool with the other Wihas for the contrast. This one came with a bottle opener, which was pretty fun. The tips look really good. But once you start getting into like the flatheads and stuff, you can see where they really didn't do us a service on profiling the flathead here. And if we compare it to a regular Wiha flathead, you can see where actual care was taken. So probably great for at home, DIY, just being a dad and opening toys for your kids or here and there. But on the job site, these are definitely more of a conversation piece than they are going to be job site worthy. If we were to load up this tool pouch with our Knipex, the bigger handles particularly would look something like that. They drop all the way down. And they look okay. The problem is that we don't need all these tools. And a lot of these screwdrivers, frankly, aren't very usable when you consider the size and the length and the leverage. If you ask me, I still prefer the Wiha screwdrivers. They're very consistent in the shape and size. You get a nice flat here for your thumb. Everything's completely round. And the whole screwdriver, this whole red portion, is rubberized and gives you a lot of grip. You've also got the identification on the back side. And the tips are always great from Wiha. They're all parallel. When it comes to the Knipex versus the Wiha, I actually like these larger handles, maybe a little bit more just because of that flat. It feels really good. And overall, they're just a really good looking screwdriver. We'll see what the yellow looks like over time with solvents and oil and things like that. When I look at tools like this, I can't help but think about industrial work because I did industrial for so long in control cabinets. And all of these screwdrivers would be really nice control cabinet screwdrivers. When you do industrial, especially as an electrician, there's a lot of cutting oil, there's rigid, there's threading, there's all kinds of stuff going on that job site. I understand that if you're in the PLC kind of crew, you're not going to be getting as dirty, but you almost have to have a separate set of tools versus your dirty set of tools when you start really getting into the full industrial kind of lifestyle. Now for the plot twist. One thing here that can't go without mentioning, if it wasn't the Wiha, hands down, it's going to be this Klein. It's the insulated multi. I tell you guys this almost every video. The number 2 is pretty good feeling. I truly like this number 2. Man, this just, wow. They're too small. They're too small. I can't even like. They're just too small. The Veras feel better. The Veras feel better. Let's get all the Veras, and then we get all the Knipex, and we'll compare them because. Okay. Yeah. Wow. They look good. They look good. Okay, so we got the number 2 from the Knipex here. Let's get the number 2 from the Wera. The number 2 from the Wera is comically small. It has the taper like we said before. And the Knipex is definitely better than the Wera. So Knipex wins that one. The skinniness here on the Wiha is better. We got the number 2 from Knipex, the Phillips, and we'll go ahead and grab the number 2 from the Wera. The Wera might win this competition. It's a good feeling screwdriver for the price, guys. I can't do it. I can't do it. The Wiha is better in every way. It's got a skinnier kind of grab here. The thickness, the grip, the everything, man. The everything. The Wiha wins. Against these two, the Wiha wins. It feels kind of light and anemic. This feels very light. I don't even know what to say about this. I don't like them. Overhyped. Overhyped. And I hyped them up. Nobody told me about these. I found them and I was like, well, these got to be great. They're Knipex. The control screwdriver is pretty decent, but the Wiha control screwdriver is still better. The number 2 actually feels pretty decent. The number 1 actually feels pretty decent. It's probably going to be better than the number 1 from Wera. Except that it's not. The Wera is still better. It's just a different feel. Yeah, wow. Damn, I had a whole video planned out for you guys to try them out, but I don't like them. I don't want to recommend them. I don't think it can be beat. You've got the number 1 square, you got the number 2 square. You got the number 2 Phillips, you've got the 1/4 inch on the flathead. You've got the trim style here of the flathead, and you got the number 1 Phillips. This takes up a lot less room than, I mean, look at all these screwdrivers on the table. This replaces pretty much every screwdriver that we have talked about on this table. Like, let that sink in. The leverage on this is unmatched whenever you're dealing with a handle like this. The length of it, everything about it is just great. The whole thing is a very good experience. I have this question a lot. Is this electrically conductive to this side? The answer is yes. If you put a multimeter on this and ring continuity, these are connected internally. So what you'll see me do a lot on my lives especially, I'll pull these out of the handle here, and I'll use this to pry with, pop little springs out, all kinds of things. This is great because you don't have a bulky handle sitting here while you're trying to use the tool. It's almost like like a dentist instrument, man. These things are great for just about everything, and you can spin them very quickly, just loosening plate covers, things like that. If you ask me, this is the one to get. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.